Test. Good morning. Welcome to today's Veterans Day program, a day set aside to honor our veterans and to show appreciation for the courage and patriotism of all the men and women who have served in the military. My name is Doug Nelson, and I am the assistant principal for South Newton Elementary and the son of a United States Army veteran. We are honored to have our veterans and their families with us today. Let's not forget those young men and women currently serving our country at this moment. Military service demands a special kind of sacrifice, and these individuals are following in the footsteps of many before them that chose to defend our country and ensure that freedom stays alive here at home and around the world. Throughout this nation's history, America's soldiers, sailors, airmen and women, Marines, and Coast Guard men and women have bravely answered the call to defend our freedom, to aid our friends and allies, and to turn back aggressors. Today we celebrate the great men and women that have served and continue to serve on land, in the air, and at sea. So let us pause with respect and honor on this Veterans Day and remember those who fought, for those who gave their life and paid the ultimate sacrifice, and for those who willingly stand ready to do the same without question when the defense of freedom calls on them. It is our privilege to say thank you to all America's veterans, to let them know that we appreciate them for their service and honor them for their sacrifices. Our students and staff have put together a tribute of poems, songs, and traditions that help us to remember each and every veteran and the impact they have had on all of us and the generations to come. On behalf of the South Newton School Corporation, I hope that you enjoy the program.
Soldier, Each day as we begin our school day, we recite the Pledge of Allegiance here at school. However, do we really reflect on the words we are saying? We want to take just a minute and clarify those words so that the next time we repeat them, we might just reflect on or rationalize what those words really do mean to our nation. My teammates and I would like to share those words with you.
The following words were spoken by the late Red Skelton on his television program, January 14th, 1969, as he related the story of his teacher, Mr. Laswell, who felt his students had come to think of the Pledge of Allegiance as merely something to recite in class each day. Now, more than ever, listen to the meaning of his words.
I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester, and it seems as though it is becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word?
I, me an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity. Allegiance, my love and my devotion, to the flag. Our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there is respect because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. Of the united, that means we have all come together.
States, individual communities that have united into 50 great states. 50 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose, and that's love for a country. And to the Republic. Republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people. For which it stands one nation under God. One nation meaning so blessed by God.
Invisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation, and justice, the principle or quality of dealing fairly with others, for all, which means it's as much your country as it is mine.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty for justice and all. You may now sit.
Hello, my name is Austin Meyer. I am the son of Chris Meyer. who served as a sergeant in the 101st Airborne from 2003 to 2006. And I asked him what it was like to be in the Army and what his purpose was, and this is what he had to say. When a soldier, whether a Marine, airman, or sailor, enters the military, they take an oath. It's an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. It is the soldier's most important duty to honor that oath. The soldier has the duty to do the best of their ability, and their service requires that. The soldier has the duty to respect the chain of command and follow orders to the best of their ability, as they are part of a team. The soldier has a duty to be respectful, professional, and moral, as they're a representative of the United States military, and they must show that. If a soldier is a leader, the duties multiply. They have the duty to be a role model for other soldiers as they emulate them. The leader has the duty to make sure their soldiers' equipment are on top form, as they must be ready for any mission at any time. They have the duty to keep their soldiers well trained, as it is necessary for them to create a cohesive team. They have the duty to be the best leader they can be. They owe it to their soldiers. They have the duty to look out for their soldiers and make sure they are well taken care of, and to let them know they are part of a team. They must honor all these duties, for that is what makes the American military as good as it is. But after the battlefield has fallen silent and the soldier returns home and they age as a veteran, they have one final duty to complete. A duty to tell their story of those soldiers who fought and made the ultimate sacrifice. A duty to remind people of the soldiers who lost or risked everything for the good of their country. This is a soldier's duty.
Flag etiquette dictates that every time an American flag is to be stored or presented during a ceremony, its handler should fold it in half twice lengthwise, and starting with the end opposite the blue field, make a taut triangle fold. Handlers continue to fold the flag in triangles until the flag has formed a triangular pillow, with the blue field showing on the outside. It's a dignified way to treat the flag and gives a powerful torch to patriotic ceremonies. This 13-fold procedure was common long before the more modern assigned meanings. The source and date of origin of the meanings is unknown, but for those who participate or witness a formal flag folding ceremony, whether it be on Flag Day, Memorial Day, July 4th, Veterans Day, or at a military funeral, the 13 meanings can create an uplifting experience.
This is what the 13 folds mean. The first fold of our flag is a symbol of life. The second fold signifies our belief in eternal life. The third fold is made in honor and tribute of the veteran departing our ranks, and who gave a portion of his or her life for the defense of our country to attain peace. The fourth fold exemplifies our weaker nature as citizens trusting in God. The fifth fold is an acknowledgement to our country, for in the words of Stephen Decatur, our country in dealing with other countries may always be right, but it is still our country, right or wrong. The sixth fold is where our hearts lie. It is with our heart that we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. The seventh fold is a tribute to our armed forces, for it is through the armed forces that we protect our country and our flag against all enemies. The eighth fold is a tribute to the one who entered into the valley of the shadow of death. The ninth fold is an honor to womanhood, for it has been through their faith, love, loyalty, and devotion that the character of men and women who have made this country great have been molded. The 10th fold is a tribute to Father, for he, too, has given his sons and daughters for the defense of our country since he or she was first born. The 11th fold, in the eyes of the Hebrew citizens, represents the lower portion of the seal of King David and King Solomon, who glorifies in their eyes the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The 12th fold, in the eyes of the Christian citizen, represents an emblem of eternity and glorifies in their eyes God the Father, the Son, and Holy Ghost. The last fold, when the flag is completely folded, the stars are uppermost, reminding us of our national motto, "In God we trust."
My brother Logan is in the U.S. Army. His job is important to fight for our country, yet I don't see him a lot. We call and tell each other our stories. My brother's drill sergeant is harsh. A drill sergeant tells the recruits what to do. Drill sergeants will either say, drop down and give me 10, 15, or even 20 push-ups, depending how bad that person was. If one person has to do push-ups, normally everyone has to do push-ups. All what Logan gets to eat normally is MREs, which stands for Meal Ready to Eat.
What is a veteran? Well, a veteran is a person who served in the Army, such as the U.S. Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, and Coast Guards. Now, what is Veterans Day, you may ask? Well, Veterans Day was originally Armistice Day to honor those who served in World War I. And in 1954, after the U.S. had been involved in the two wars of the Korean War and World War II, Armistice Day was changed to Veterans Day to honor those who served in World War I, World War II, and the Korean War. Now I will tell you 3 interesting facts about Veterans Day. The first fact is that there are about 23.2 million military soldiers in the U.S. The next fact is that different countries give Veterans Day a different name, as in France and New Zealand still calling Veterans Day Armistice Day. The final fact is there are about 2 million veterans that are women. Veterans Day is important to honor those dead or alive that fought for our country, and to honor those who have died without any family knowing, like the unknown soldier.
Thank you for everything you do for our freedom and fighting for our lives. You are loyal to the country and you're so important to us, and you're hard working for us to have freedom. You're smart because you fight for us and you know how good it will be for us to have freedom. You're talented because you know how to fight for us. You're also confident and fearless. All these qualities make you perfect to protect your country. This holiday is special to me because my brother is joining the armed force. It is also important to celebrate the people who fight for our freedom. You also sacrifice your family time to protect our country, and so we can spend time with our family.
It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today's convocation. Mr. David Gertz is a 1992 graduate of South Newton High School. In 1992, Mr. Gertz entered the United States Marine Corps and served 4 years in infantry, reaching the rank of corporal. In 2002, Mr. Gertz went back into the military and served 17 years in the United States Army as a combat engineer and achieved a rank of Sergeant First Class. Mr. Gertz has been part of several combat deployments in Somalia, Iraq, and Afghanistan. His decorations include an Army Commendation Medal with V device for valor, worn to denote participation in acts of heroism involving conflict with an armed enemy. 2 Bronze Star medals with V device denotes heroism and is the 4th highest military decoration for valor. A Bronze Star medal, and 2 Purple Hearts, which are presented to service members who have been wounded or killed as a result of enemy action while serving in the U.S. military. Please join me in welcoming Mr. David Gertz.
Charlie Dyer told me to keep this short and sweet, so I'm gonna do my best, but Tansy Mulligan told me I had 10 to 15 minutes. Some of you folks know that Dave Gertz can spin a yarn, so I'm gonna do my best. If you would have asked my teachers in 1992 if Dave Gertz, sorry. Would be honored enough to stand in front of you and you it's an important day. But first of all, if I could have all the veterans stand, all of you, they deserve a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to thank the administration, Mr. Hall, thank you for having me. Tansy Mulligan, thank you for having me. I guess we need to ask ourselves, what exactly is a veteran? Whether you're active duty, discharged, retired, or a reserve, is someone at one point in time wrote a check payable to the United States of America for their life, for you. I apologize, today makes me emotional. The young lady said it earlier, Armistice Day. If you were in Australia, it'd be called Anzacs Day. Here we now refer to it as Veterans Day. Was actually started, and if you look at it, it's 11 November every year. But it was signed in the 11th minute of the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, which was the end of the First World War. In which case they said, please, may we never have to go to war ever again. That is where we get the 11th of November, which is known as Veterans Day. If you ever go to the Legion, if you go to the Veterans Forums Wars, you see them out on the road and they're selling the poppies. You stop by, you give $1, you give whatever you can, and you get a poppy. Well, I'm gonna let you know what the poppy actually stands for. In the fields of France, after the First World War, they were so demolished from shelling and fighting and gas, rotting corpses, that nothing would grow but a red poppy that is known to grow in arid soil. And it's there for us to wear in remembrance of those who went before us. When I was a little boy, and I look at it now and I think, well, my Uncle Bob Carlson at the time was 81 years old, and he got a letter from, he got a commemorative plaque from President Carter, which none of you folks will remember, and we were kids when it happened, but he got a plaque thanking him for being one of the last Hoosier veterans. At 48 years old, I remember one. Some of you may remember your great-grandpas being a World War II veteran. When I was a boy, all of our grandpas were World War II veterans. All of our dads were Vietnam veterans. All of our uncles were Korean War veterans. My dad's about to turn 80. So you're gonna start to see, folks, as these heroes are going, somebody's gotta replace those. So to the World War II veterans, which I know of one, I can't begin to tell you, thank you. To the Korean War veterans, which they called the Forgotten War, it is not forgotten. Thank you. To the Vietnam veterans, welcome home. And to those that went with me, we did it, and we made it. Looking up today, I thought, well, I better know what we have here. In World War I, Hoosier veterans, there were 1,420. And America was only in the war from 1917 to 1918. In World War II, the numbers were too high to count, and they figure it at over 10,000. Korea, 927 Hoosier veterans. And in Vietnam, the count is somewhere between 1,525 to 1,530. One Hoosier veteran that I could find that comes from Newton County was a young man by the name of Ronald M. Cooley from Goodland that passed away giving his life in Vietnam. I come from a long family of Hoosier veterans, so I'm lucky. My third great grandpa, who was one of the first doctors in Newton County, served as the division doctor under Sherman on the March to the Sea in the Civil War. World War I, we had Uncle Bob Carlson. World War II, I had three grandpas. Ted Hayes served through World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, retired as a full bird colonel. My grandpa Gert, he was a PFC, never left the country, but he was tool and dying parts that went on the props of B-17 bombers to liberate Europe. My grandpa Bud, who made it in 1945, was in a train somewhere in Kansas when we dropped the bomb, so he got to spend his time in Washington guarding the homes of Winston Churchill and Ike and Mamie Eisenhower when they came home. And a funny story about that is one evening, colder than the well digger's rear end, Bud Johnson's been out on guard duty all night, gets a little tired, may have had a few PBRs the night before, fell asleep while walking his post and stepped off the curb, and it scared him and jolted him, and he caught himself on a lamp post. And he said, I thought to myself, come on, Johnson, get it together. And as I looked up, here's Mrs. Eisenhower looking out the window, and she probably thought, there's a real gem, there's the nation's finest down there. He can't even stay awake on his post. My dad was 22 years old in 1965 and got drafted. And for any of you who know my dad, he was not the war-going type, but he was going to serve his country. My dad, a Vietnam veteran, served 2 years on Okinawa, Japan. And a funny story about Okinawa, Japan, this young Marine in 1995 followed his dad 30 years later to the island of Okinawa, and I did my 6-month tour around the rock. My daughter, who is 22 years old, is now stationed in Okinawa on the rock, 3 generations of Gertzes, but almost made it 30 years apart. Excuse me. I don't want to miss out and say that the only folks that ever did anything for their country were men, because they're not. Right now, women veterans, there's nearly 2 million living women veterans in the U.S. It's a big number, folks, 2 million. And women now currently make up 10% of the overall veteran population. So ladies, don't ever think you can't do your part, because you can, and we appreciate when you do it. So a little bit about myself, and then I'll call her quits and I'll leave you folks alone. From the time I could remember, all I wanted to do was play Army. I watched every World War II movie. I probably knew more about the Second World War than my history teacher did in grade school. We used to have things called books, and I read every book I could possibly find about the different wars. That's all I cared about. Was not the best student. Like, at all. That's why I say, if you'd asked teachers 30 years ago if Dave Gertz would have been standing up here in front of you, no, he wouldn't, because the world needed ditch diggers. And when I went in the Marines, I got real good at it. So I joined the Marine Corps. I was going into the Army just like everybody else in my family did. And I saw this guy come into the hallway out here, and he was wearing a pair of dress blues, and I thought, oh, man, that dude looks cool. Chicks are gonna dig this. He starts telling me about 13 weeks of hell, boot camp, and I thought, yeah, that's what I need. We're gonna get it out of here. So I went home and I told my dad, hey, talked to a recruiter today, I wanna go in the Marines. He looked at me and he said, no, you don't. I was like, no, I really do. He goes, no, that's a tough outfit. And I said, Dad, that's why I gotta do it. So I went in and I was really fortunate because I got into a company that did raids. We did things at night out of rubber raiding craft, and I was part of the 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines. They got to wear the French Fourragère, which we got from the Battle of Belleau Wood in the First World War. So it's a pretty proud unit, highest decorated unit in the Marine Corps. We thought we were it, a bunch of young men full of that and vinegar. So I got out in 1996, unbeknownst to me. It was a horrible decision. I wished I'd have stayed. But I didn't. We could see the war was coming on in 2001, and I thought, somebody's always done their part. Somalia, to me, I didn't feel as if I had done enough. So I joined back up. I had 2 little girls, one was 2 and the other one was 9 months. Went back to boot camp, so I'm the idiot that has 26 weeks full of boot camp and AIT and Marine combat training. So if you think you can't do it once, I did it twice. First duty station right out of the freaking chute, going to Germany. Now I got to move these 2 little girls and my wife. We're going to Europe. So I said, well, I'll go over first. And the minute I got off the plane, of course, I'm the only private first class in the unit wearing 11 ribbons. I was told, hey, I'm glad you're here. We could use you. We're getting ready to go to a place called downrange, which for those of you who have been, you know downrange means you're packing up your sea bag, boys. We're going overseas to fight the war. Oh man, really? I've been here like 15 minutes and this is what I get? So I show up in 2004, 2005, and what we at the time called the bloodiest year of the war, but we were told, we're not gonna be liberators anymore, you're now an occupier. Nobody wants to be an occupier. So I served with distinction with just a wonderful unit, 2nd Platoon, Charlie Company, 9th Engineers, and we lost 2 wonderful men over there. But I zigged when I should have zagged, and I managed to get myself hit by a rocket-propelled grenade. Shrapnel in my arm, upside of my face, blew my eardrum out, got my bell rung. We got back, and of course, you know, as an old football player, you gotta shake it off. And the battalion commander that we fell under thought he was George Patton, so he told me I had to go call home and let them know I was okay. Well, I think it was a really bad idea. Probably ought to do that, you know, let people know that you got yourself hurt over there when I was trying to make it out like it was an Eagle Scout trip and we were just camping. So I thought, well, who should I call? I'm not going to call my wife. She's got 2 little girls to take care of. So I thought, well, shoot, I'll call my dad. He's a funeral director. He gets these calls all the time. So I had to call my dad, who was on his way to LaPorte, Indiana, to pick up a body at the time, and it was raining. And he was driving the car, and I said, hey, just want to let you know something real quick, not to waste any of your time, but I got hit tonight by a rocket, and I got a Purple Heart. Never heard Rick Rich really lose it. Well, I did a few times, but we were pretty young. But boy, Rick put on the brakes, could hear it squealing to a halt, and he said, what did you do? I said, well, I managed to get myself hit tonight, Dad. I'm going to get a Purple Heart. Dead silence. And then the old man comes back on, he's a little choked up, and he said, you better be careful over there, because I'm not old enough to lose a son. Thought, well, shoot. So I managed to do it a second time, in which case we didn't talk about that one. I just kept that one under my hat until I got home. I got home, and I got myself sent to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. I don't know if any of you folks ever got to spend any time at Fort Lost in the Woods, but it's about hotter than Haiti, and they have ticks down there the size of freak bulldogs. And I was lucky enough that I got to spend 10 years, an entire decade. They were about ready to start naming buildings after me. And I got myself into a program at the time, working dogs to find bombs. I thought, well, shoot, I like to hunt. I want to work a dog. Good friend of mine, his dad, Tom Applegate, had a dog named Barnaby, and Barnaby was just about bird finding fool, and I thought, boy, if I get a dog like Barn, I can go out there and find bombs. Well, it's going to be great. So I go to this school, and this is going to be fun. Get this dog. We trained on finding bombs. In 2007, I'm going to be deployed again to go to Iraq. Oh, cool. Well, I guess I'm going back. So I get there, and I have this dog, and about the time we touched down, it dawned on me, you're a guy with a dog in front of the guys with the guns by yourself, and you're going to go find bombs? Bob Hayes was right when he said, you weren't very smart, son. What were you thinking? So I took that dog, Bruno, Foxtrot 715, on 26 missions, and combined with Bruno, I found over a ton of explosives. And every time I think about one round, one singular rifle round, could have met the fact that one family never got their lives ruined by the death of their child. Best job I ever had. So I come back, and in 2010, they decided they're going to send me to a school to find landmines. So I'm going to go to this school, and I'm going to take dogs, and I'm going to find landmines, which, once again, sounds like a really, really bad idea. If any of you are combat engineers, you know how that feels to get out a probe, get on your face, and start looking for landmines. Who does that? So I took a dog, and I took a detachment of boys over there. Combined, we found over 25,000 unexploded Soviet landmines. We found over 4 tons of homemade explosives. And I have to ask myself, how many local nationals, Afghanis, because that's who we were over there for, and Americans did we save by finding that? But at that point in time, I had a young man that was 6 months old. And this is what veterans do. I gave up a year of my time with a brand new mom and a brand new baby boy so that I could go over and serve my country. And when I came home, he was a 1.5 years old. My baby boy didn't know who I was. Well, by God, in 2013, I decided I'd volunteer for another one. You know, why not roll the dice on number 4? Made her home in 2013, pretty lucky, I'm blessed. They sent me to Fort Knox, Kentucky. My dad went to Fort Knox, Kentucky in 1965, and 50 years later, I decided I'd follow him back over there. So it sounds like I followed my dad everywhere I went. And I got what the Army likes to call a cush gig. And man, I went to work at 9 o'clock in the morning and I was done at noon. But when summers came around, I had to go watch National Guard and I had to go watch reservist, which is not a tough job. And of course, every fellow enjoys drinking a cold one, so that's what I did. And I got to retire out in 2019. And I thought, you know, I'd like to go home. Maybe we ought to come home and settle down here, and I want my boy to be a rebel. And actually, I just wanted to hang out with Jason Applegate and run into Dylan Hall once in a while and have a cold one if I could. So that's my story. But what I want you young folks to take from this is people volunteered to give it to you, so don't take it. You have to earn it. You get one shot at what we call God's gift, so don't waste it. And if you're on the fence, I wasn't recruited, I enlisted. I wanted to do the job. There are folks out here that did not, but they did it anyways because they were called up. When we were over there, and I'll close her down here because I'm sure you guys are tired of my stories, I remember thinking, there's no black, there's no white, there's no Hispanic, there was no Asian, there were no Indians. Everyone over there wore the same flag, and when you saw it, they were known as brother. And if you called somebody a brother, you meant it. So when I came home, I thought, we have problems today with race wars, and there's no race war because you're all bleeding the same color, and everybody was willing to give theirs for somebody else. So in a nutshell, folks, what we have today, as you look at these folks, are people who are willing to go the distance for you. So I would dare say again, if you don't mind, please give these folks a round of applause because they deserve it. I'm going to round it out by saying, Daha Dillon Hall.
It's an honor to be back here again. It's been a couple of years since I've been here. And I just want to say, first of all, this is about, when Mr. Nelson called me, I always get this tingle when I get the opportunity to come here and do the song I'm about to do for you. And young people, what Mr. Hurst said is correct. I was never in the service. My dad was, be it a Korean veteran, lost my dad 5 years ago, had full military rights for him to attend at his funeral. And if you've never been to one of those, for your grandparents or your parents, it's quite an emotional time. But hats off to the staff. It is excellent. Excellent program as it is every year. So, yeah. So I was asked to do, and I'm sure many of you have heard this song by Lee Greenwood called God Bless the USA. It's a song I never get tired of doing. I actually do the Gators band version, so here we go. This is for you all. Thank you. Worked for all my life. I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause that flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, I know I'm free, and I won't forget those men who died, who gave that right to me, and I'll proudly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, oh, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say,
In closing, I would like to thank everyone that helped put this program together. I would also like to thank those that participated today. I would like to end with a few quotes. Dan Lipinski, a former U.S. representative, stated, "On this Veterans Day, let us remember the service of our veterans, and let us renew our national promise to fulfill our sacred obligations to our veterans and their families who have sacrificed so much so that so that we can live free." Eleanor Roosevelt reminds us that freedom makes a huge requirement of every human being. With freedom comes responsibility. We have a huge responsibility to uphold for our veterans. It is each one of us that is responsible for doing our very best to ensure that our nation continues to be the greatest country in the world. While only one day of the year is dedicated solely to honoring our veterans, Americans must never forget the sacrifices that many of our fellow countrymen and women made and are still making for our freedom. When you see a veteran or soldier in uniform, don't forget to thank them for their service, and remember to keep your promise and do your part. Thank you all for coming today and celebrating with us, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.